What's going on, you guys? This is your boy RBG, aka the Random Black Gamer, bringing you another video on Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, the game that just keeps on not giving. As you guys are aware, the latest DLC announcement just dropped and a lot of fans have mixed reactions about it. Some positive, but there are a lot of negatives when it comes to this, and it's for the right reason, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, I gotta ask you guys to do me the biggest favor and like this video. Yeah, I know it's a bit annoying getting this request at the very beginning of the video before you watch it in its entirety, but YouTube's algorithm encourages it. So if you rock with your boy and you know I'm gonna bring you that awesome content, then smash that like button. And if by any chance this just so happens to be your first time here and you feel like I've wasted 10 minutes of your time, then feel free to retract that like and give it a dislike. Just rate the video. But yeah guys, after what seems like eons, we finally have the latest DLC to Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And I can honestly say that it looks good. Like, I've enjoyed what Spike Chunsoft has done with these characters in regards to how they animate. And I still consider this the best looking Dragon Ball Z game that we've gotten to date. But with that said, it seems like anytime they give us an expansion pack, they don't necessarily fix the issues that have been hurting the game since launch, which is why the overall reception to this DLC hasn't really been all that positive as they would like it to be. And before I even go into detail about those issues, we gotta talk about the approach that Bandai Namco and Spike Chunsoft have had in regards to their rollout for these DLC packs. And I think a lot of you guys will agree with me when I say that anytime there's a build up to a DLC, we don't really have that much hype behind it, because Spike Chunsoft, they're just this weird development team that doesn't necessarily address things head on. And you're gonna hear me say Spike Chunsoft a lot in this video as opposed to Bandai Namco, because I see a lot of people placing the blame on Bandai Namco in regards to how this game's been handled, and I cannot stress this enough. Even though this is the company that's largely responsible for pushing these games out, they don't really handle a lot of the inner workings or the development that goes into these Dragon Ball Z titles. A lot of that hinges on the development team associated with each respective title. If anything, I feel like this is the best the company has been in regards to giving these developers enough creative leeway to put what they want to put into the post-launch content, which is why studios like Dimps have been able to pump out so many DLCs and expansion packs for games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, despite the game being almost a decade old now, and why we're seeing something similar with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So at the end of the day, the ball is in Spike Chunsoft's court, and they're gonna have to figure out when they're gonna want to pick that ball up and get moving when it comes to producing things for the fans who are eagerly wanting more for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And sadly, they just haven't been able to meet our expectations, because everything that we gotten up to this point has been bare minimum effort, if you ask me. And this goes back to those issues that I was talking about earlier, where we don't have a lot of maps in this game compared to previous games from the yesteryear. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3 boasts by far some of the most vast array of maps in any Dragon Ball Z title, and given the fact that this game is supposed to be the spiritual successor of those titles, then you think that this game would supersede them or at least have a similar number of maps. But unfortunately that hasn't been the case, which is weird, right? Because there are a ton of maps that are in the data mines for this game, but unfortunately we do not have access to. If you just so happen to own a high-end PC that can handle the game, then you do have access to these maps. But unfortunately for those who own a console, then you're just left with what you got. Despite Sparking Zero featuring a lot of characters that had these pivotal moments in Dragon Ball history, the stages that these moments took place in aren't anywhere to be found. And after almost a year of this game being out, we finally have a new map, and that's just that. We just got one map after all this time, which says a lot, because if you go back and look at the comment section on that video, you'll see a lot of snarky and sarcastic comments talking about after years we finally got one map for Sparking Zero, or oh man, they actually have a new location. Yeah, like that right there just shows you that people have stopped taking this game seriously. All that hype that it had going up to its release has diminished tremendously, and there's barely a fraction of that hype left. And if you're happy about this, I don't want to just crap all over your parade and say that you shouldn't be happy about it, because I feel like there are a lot of hopeful players out there who have continued to play the game religiously since its launch, despite its lack of new updates and things of that nature. There's also been this janky approach they've had to presenting these updates, where they say that they're giving you a certain amount of characters only for it to be variants slash forms of the same character. Like, it's funny, right? Because we started off with 11 so-called characters in DLC 1, which were basically just variants of Gohan and Piccolo with a couple of other characters thrown in there. But now it's actually gotten so bad to where we barely even get any forms that are associated with these characters that they're giving us. For example, Goku Mini has had the weirdest rollout in regards to how he's presented in these DLCs. When we first got the game, he was released as a pre-order bonus for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and then we had to end up getting another version of the character once Daima rolled out, and they wanted to present the Daima characters with him. Instead of giving us all the forms associated with the character like Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan 3, as well as the latest entry Super Saiyan 4, we only got Super Saiyan 1. Meanwhile, Vegeta Mini was able to get Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, and Super Saiyan 3 respectively, which felt so one-sided for both of these characters given the fact that Goku Mini also transformed into Super Saiyan 3 in episode 17 of Dragon Ball Daima. And I know many of you guys are going to argue, well, he didn't really do much in that form in the episode, but hey, that doesn't mean that they can't just use their imagination and give him some moves that Goku would do for this version of his character, because we've seen that. Like, look at the character of King Cold. That guy didn't do a single thing but swipe a sword and get blasted to oblivion, yet they gave him an entirely new moveset that really fit his character, and I feel like they could have did that with Goku Mini Super Saiyan 3. There's also the fact that Spike Chunsoft went out of their way to hold off on featuring Super Saiyan 4 for the Goku Mini character, even though the character had transformed into this thing 2 months prior to the release of DLC 2. Like, I understand that you want to save the best for last, but given the fact that you have 2 versions of that character, you could have easily just included that in DLC 2 and used the adult version of Super Saiyan 4 Goku for the last DLC of this Daima pack, but they opted not to do that. After months of waiting, we're finally getting an English dub for the characters such as Goku Mini, who should have had the English dub available for him at launch. And even though this is the latest DLC for Sparking Zero, this is by far the smallest addition of characters that we've gotten so far, with a good majority of them just being transformations of pre-existing characters from the roster, which is a major disappointment if you ask me, because we don't know if all the things that we've seen with these characters is going to be included. Like, they didn't necessarily show the entire transformation of Super Saiyan 4 Goku in his adult form, where we see him rip off his shirt and proceed to transform into this new form. We only saw him after they showed the Dragon Balls, wishing, I guess, Goku to be turned back into an adult, and we don't even know if it's gonna be connected to any of his other versions where you can actually transform in real time. Same can be said for Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. These are characters that are most likely gonna be put into their own separate slots, as opposed to just being attached to the base forms that we already have in the game. And I think it's safe to say that this Daima arc is pretty much done in regards to what DLCs they're going to include from that particular entry, and it's very disappointing given the fact that we didn't necessarily get all the characters that came with that entry in Dragon Ball Z. And I'm not talking about the characters that were all dwarfed into many variants of themselves. I'm talking about characters that actually fought the Z Fighters, because for the most part we mainly got the good guys as opposed to the villains that they went up against. Despite their prominence in this series and the simple fact that they feature Dragon Balls in their chests, the Tamagami are completely absent from this game's roster, which is very similar to the Shadow Dragons which these characters are based off of. Like, let's not forget that the only dragon that we were able to get out of that group was Sin Shenron / Omega Shenron. So yeah, another DLC that will keep us satiated for a little bit of time, but we'll grow bored of it, and we'll ask questions in regards to other things like when we're going to get more maps, and when are we going to see the pre-existing characters from the previous Tenkaichi games make a return. There's also major questions regarding the story mode, because many fans wonder if that's going to be a one and done thing that never gets touched again. While online versus was one of the main things being played with this title, I can honestly say that there were a lot of fans who were invested in the story mode for this, and the most mutual opinion that fans had in regards of it was that it felt incomplete, like they were going to add some more to it to further flesh it out. Like, I initially thought that anytime we got a new character that we were going to get a new map and a new story mode associated with that said character, similar to what we have been getting with things like Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which seems to be doing a better job with their Daima DLC, but Spike Chunsoft just doesn't seem like they can get the momentum going. Their momentum has been in a screeching halt ever since the game's launch, and they just don't seem like that team that we used to have back in the early 2000s that were very committed to giving us a Dragon Ball Z game that's complete upon launch. Instead, we've gotten a team that's associated with other bad 3D arena games such as Jump Force, which you already know how that was. That was a failure on all levels, and if this game continues in the state that it's in, it could end up just like Jump Force, where it doesn't receive any more updates and ultimately be blacklisted from any store shelves as well as online. But with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you guys. Are you satisfied with the latest DLC for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, or do you feel like Spike Chunsoft just hasn't hit that mark yet in regards to keeping you interested in this title? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. But if you truly enjoyed the video, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on all the different social media outlets. Sharing really makes a difference. But once again, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.